This presentation is on the data overview for Wheeler High School, given by Daniel Hay on October 29, 2016, for iTech 7305, Dr. James Wright, Kennesaw State University. This presentation is intended for administrators, teachers, and instructional specialists of Cobb County and Wheeler High School. This presentation is also intended for Dr. James Wright, professor at Kennesaw State University. The purpose of the overview. The purpose of this overview is to analyze state, county, and local school demographic data from 2010 to 14, compare state, county, and local CCRPI data, review and analyze EOCT data and local school data from 2010 to 14, discover trends, strengths, and weaknesses from the data. Who are Wheeler students? Who are the students that make up Wheeler High School? Is the Wheeler student population growing and thriving? Let's take a look. Right here we have the demographics of the school. We have them broken down into multiracial, Caucasian or white, Hispanic, African American, and Asian. As we look at the data, between the school year of 2010 to 11 and all the way to 2012 and 13, the school had actually had a trend of losing students. The student population went from 2006 down to 1985. You also notice that African American students, along with Caucasian or white students, make up a majority of the population. As we go a little further into the enrollment data, we also see gifted, ESOL, and SPED students. As we can tell from this graph, gifted students make up a majority of the population of the school within this subgroup. As we look at the data broken down by subgroup, between gifted, ESOL, and special education, we can see that gifted declined between the years of 2010 to 11 and 2012 and 13, and then made a slight rebound in 2013 to 14. We can also see that special education has actually made somewhat of a steady increase from 2010 to 14, taking a slight dip from 2011 to 12 school year to 2012 and 13, and then rebounding from 2013 to the 14 school year. The total school enrollment, as we can see in the end value at the bottom right, has actually taken a dip as well slightly from 2006 in 2010 to 11 to 2011 and 12, and then all the way down to its lowest 1985 in 2012 to 13, and then jumping up to 2086. As for the ESOL population, that population has both gone up and gone down through the years. At its highest point in 2010 to 11, and its lowest point 11 to 12, and then going up slightly in 12 to 13, and then back down to 13 to 14. It starts out at 2,090 students from the 2010 to 11 school year, and then drops to 2006 from 10 to 11. This trend of moving up and down actually occurs at a pretty steady rate. However, the 2013 to 14 school year saw a significant leap from 1985 students to 2,125, and then a slight dip as seen in the other trends, dipping down to 2,086 students. How is Wheeler doing though? After looking at the demographic data, how is Wheeler performing? How does Wheeler perform when rated on a variety of standards, including school climate, testing, and access to resources, etc.? How does the community see Wheeler? As we look here, we see the CCRPI scores for 4 steady years. It was my intent to go back further. However, CCRPI is a newer program, and thus there was no data going back before 2012. As such, 2015 was added to see if we could determine a trend for the data. As we look at the data, we'll notice that Wheeler High School, in gray, is actually underperforming the county and the state. However, as we look at 2015, we'll notice that there was a significant difference in trend. In 2015, we saw Wheeler High School make huge gains, moving from the previous year of a CCRPI score, which determines the overall performance of the school, at 71%, making a huge leap to 82%. The total data is out of 100% for the school. We notice this huge gain. We also see this gain followed as well by state and county performing as well. However, the gains are significant, and that is quite a significant gain. How trained is the staff? How trained is the staff here at Wheeler High School? Well, let's take a look. We see a positive trend here with more and more teachers obtaining master's, specialist, and doctoral degree. The graph seems to move in parallel. We see a slight dip in teachers with bachelor's degrees, which shows that most are moving up to master's, specialists, and doctoral. Are the students making their targets? Are students succeeding with their 4-year plan for graduation? And how does Wheeler's graduation compare to the rest of the state? As we look at the graduation rate broken down by subgroup, we'll notice that ELL students made a significant leap in the year of 2011 to 12, followed by a sudden jump down, a decrease from 2012 to 13. As we look at Asian Pacific Islanders, we'll notice from the 2012 to 13 school year that Asian Pacific Islanders only make up 48 students. Although Asian Pacific Islanders make up the largest subgroup for graduation, their total numbers are relatively low compared to the amount of other students in the school. While white students actually made a decrease in population, changing from the other trends, moving from 156 at 89.7% to representing 79.9%, almost a 10% drop, moving down to only 115 students graduating from the school. All other groups actually increased. However, there was a decrease in students with disabilities. This could be due to the fact that students with disabilities could represent any ethnic group. School versus the state. After reviewing the scores, let's take a look and see how the school does in comparison to the state. As compared to the state, 67.4% of the students statewide graduated in 2010 to 11, compared to Wheeler High School's graduation rate of 64.18. In 2013 to 14, Wheeler High School did close the gap, but only by 2%, still falling behind. Wheeler High School represents a total of 399 students in 2013 to 14 graduating, in comparison to 89,499 for the entire state. EOCT school and state. Are Wheeler students succeeding in all academic areas? Are there gaps in our performance? Is there room for improvement? Let's take a look. Now, I know this information seems like a lot, and this information will be broken down. In this data, N represents the total number of students who tested in each area. As we notice, 9th grade literature maintained constant increase. However, there were anomalies within the system. For example, Math 2 saw a decrease after seeing several large increases. After looking at all of the school data, let's then now break it down. We do see that N, for example, represents the total number of students assessed. We see across here a wide range of results, and in some areas there's only one test score. This is due to changing standards and assessments. For example, there are several areas in math, for example, analytic geometry, coordinate algebra, geometry, that show only 1 or 2 assessments. This is due to the fact of changing standards and changing assessments. Also, physical science has been recently removed and as such has no data at all to show for it. And we saw over here in mathematics too, which we'll discuss in a little bit, the significant drop in scores going from 89.5 to all the way down to 34.8. In the next few slides, we'll take a look and we'll target more specific areas. From now, we're going to break down the EOCT. Is there growth from previous years? What areas are strong? What areas need improvement? We're going to start out here with the 9th grade literature and composition scores. We'll notice there's been a steady trend from 82.1 all the way up to 87.7. In this particular area, the red represents the state scores. You'll notice that Wheeler High School is very close, within about 1% of the state, and we see a steady trend of increase. American literature is a little more sporadic on the scores, but still outpacing the state by 3% margin. in the 2013 to 14 school year. But we notice a steady trend. This is very positive, and compared to the state is doing quite well. Social studies is all we do see a slight dip, moving from 92.4 in economics, business, and free enterprise down to 85.2 in the 2010 to 12 school year, moving towards the 2012 to 13. But then we see an increase back up, moving in a positive direction at 87.1. Once again, the school is outperforming the state from an 87.1 in 2013 to 14 school year as compared to the state's 81.2, showing a significant almost 6% increase above the state. Total number of students in that year assessed were 465 students assessed, with 405 meeting and exceeding standard. Now, as we look over at U.S. history, we're once again looking at students who met or exceeded the assessment. We see here at 74.8, with 495 students being assessed and 358 meeting or exceeding. 74.8 is still above the state at 66.3%. We notice here a steady trend as the school increases, with a slight dip from 75 to 71.8. Although the school was outperforming the state, it did see a slight decrease. However, the decrease is only of 1%. The area where the school has the most difficulty and needs to be addressed is in the area of mathematics. Mathematics is one area that we need to target and take a look at. We notice at the beginning of the Math 2 assessment that there's a significant increase. The state performed at 54.7% in the 2010 to 11 school year, as compared to the school that performed at 78.7%. We then see a huge jump from there up to 89.9% in the 2012 to 13 school year, with the state only performing at 59.1. However, after this year, the 2013 to 14 school year, we see a drop due to the introduction of the new milestone assessment and the end of the old CRCT assessment. 89.5 to 34.8, which makes it a significant drop. However, this drop is also followed by a state drop of 22.6%, with 92,392 being assessed. This drop is most likely due to a change in standards, which we'll talk about later. As we see over here, the introduction of coordinate algebra saw an opportunity for an increase. Although we do see an increase of 27.9% up to 36.9, we're confident that the school will continue its gains in this assessment area and match, if not exceed, the state. We do see, though, in analytic geometry for the first assessment year of the 2013 to 14 school year that the school significantly outperformed the state from a 49.2% as compared to a 34.6%. A total of 535 students were assessed, with 263 meeting or exceeding standard. What about math? How does math compare to the state, and what is Wheeler going to do to improve math scores? Is there a plan? There is a plan. Our plan specifically addresses the EOCT score. Wheeler High School is working with Cobb County to develop the flexible formative assessment system to target those specific areas and work to increase scores on the EOCT assessment. Along with the FFAS, we are also going to differentiate classes based on students repeating courses taken and first-time takers. 0-point offerings for algebra. Maintain math classes at or near the lowest allowable size per class. By reducing class sizes and targeting key areas, Wheeler High School is addressing the needs of math learners as a way to directly address the math and algebra issues found in the EOCT to differentiate resources for students based on needs. Wheeler High School is going to provide targeted resources for students unsuccessful in math and algebra. These are based on the 2014 CCRPI math and algebra scores. Math support will be offered as a way to increase the pass rate in math class, computer labs, extended day, and pay for zero period. It's the hope that offering this program will help to address the needs of the math student trend. Wheeler High School staff has steadily increased in education among the staff with master's degrees or higher. Caucasian students have consistently decreased for over 4 years. Gifted student population has steadily increased consistently. Strength. Wheeler High School has consistently outperformed the state average score in language arts. CCRPI scores are higher than the state average scores by 6.2 points. School scores were 14.6 higher than state in the area of analytic geometry. Weaknesses. As seen in the data, math scores are weak and are not performing at the state level. Wheeler did not outperform the state average in the area of coordinate algebra by 3.4 points. Although very close, U.S. history did not outperform the state as well. How can we close the achievement gap scores in math on EOCT? What is the role of ongoing data teams? And how can formative assessment systems like FFAS and CTLS track student achievements and address gaps before EOCT? How can we close the gap of achievement scores in math on EOCT? Wheeler is addressing the issues of the EOCT with math. The flexible formative assessment is also being addressed by partnering up with Cobb County and creating an assessment system that directly addresses the needs of the school. And data teams are helping to address this need by integrating the data collected from the FFAS or Flexible Formative Assessment System and constantly meeting in PLC or professional learning committees to address the needs of the learners and differentiate and adjust instruction based on assessment responses. This, combined with the use of formative assessment, will help to bridge the achievement gap seen within math, seen especially within the math assessment. All the data for this data overview was taken from the following sites: